In this video, we talk about factor pricing models. Factor models such as the CAPM, Fama-French, or the APT, as well as smart beta strategies such as low vol and others, do share one common logic. Their expected return and risk relationship stems from a linear factor pricing model. Such models are also called beta pricing models. This video explains the concept of such linear factor pricing models. We start off with the single factor beta model. So a single factor beta pricing model with risk premium factor F assumes that the expected risk premium of asset I equals the product of the market price of factor risk times the amount of factor risk that is present in asset I. Mathematically, we can write that as follows, where MPR is my abbreviation for the market price of risk, and the covariance over the variance quantifies the amount of factor risk that is present in asset I. Now let's stay for a couple of seconds with these two equations. So you basically see that the expected excess return for any asset is the product of these two components, a lambda times a beta. And lambda is the expected risk premium you get for 1 unit exposure to a specific factor, here F, while beta tells you how much factor risk is part of my asset I. So I should even give the beta here an I index. And the beta just coincides with the covariance of asset I with the factor over the variance of the factor. Okay, now notice, if you assume the factor risk premium is the market excess return, so F is Rm minus Rf, then the factor risk premium would just be the expected value of F, that would be the lambda. Then you end up with the security market line of the CAPM given by this following equation here. So you see that in the CAPM, the lambda is simply the expected market excess return, while the beta is the covariance of asset I with the market's excess return over the variance of the market's excess return. So let's summarize a couple of noteworthy takeaways. First, any volatile asset J with zero exposure to the systematic risk factor, meaning the correlation between asset J and the factor premium is zero, earns on average only the risk-free rate. Second, regardless of the total volatility of asset K, if it shares a negative covariance with the risk premium factor, it on average earns a negative risk premium. This implies a high price for that particular stream of dividends. Third, the single factor model simplifies the world along two dimensions. On the one hand, it assumes the expected risk premium systematic risk relationship is linear. And on the other hand, it assumes there's only a single source of systematic risk. Relaxing the last assumption brings us to the second topic of this video, the multi-factor beta model. So a multi-factor beta pricing model with risk premium factors F1, F2 up to Fk assumes that the expected risk premium of asset I is caused by asset I's linear exposure to these risk premium factors. Mathematically, we can write the expected excess return of asset I as follows, which we can write more compactly in our lambda beta notation. So let's talk about these two last equations in a bit more detail. So first, sigma F is an invertible covariance matrix of the factor risk premiums F, capital F. And capital F is simply a matrix with each factor risk premium being in one column. Second, lambda prime, or lambda transpose, whatever you want to call it, let's call it lambda transpose, is the row vector of expected factor risk premiums per unit exposure to F, also called the row vector of market prices of factor risk. The mth entry quantifies the change in any asset's expected risk premium if it increased its exposure to the mth risk factor by 1 unit. Also note, each element of lambda can be negative or positive. A positive value for lambda implies that a rising amount of factor risk goes along with an increased expected risk premium. Typical examples are risk factors such as market risk or illiquidity risk. On the other hand, a negative value for lambda implies that a rising amount of factor risk induces a reduction in the expected risk premium. A typical example is volatility. Selling volatility in the form of writing options produces on average positive excess returns, which implies a negative market price for volatility risk. Okay, let's talk about the third insight from these two last equations. The covariance term F, Ri is a column vector. The mth element coincides with the covariance of return I with the mth factor premium and quantifies how much of the mth factor risk is present in asset I. Fourth, let's assume private equity earns on average higher returns than a passive investment in the aggregate market. The following linear two-factor model could rationalize that easily. First, it accounts that private equity uses leverage to buy shares of other companies. Second, the investor's money is locked up for a while, which makes it an illiquid investment for the investor. Mathematically, we could write that as the expected excess return of a private equity investment consists of two components. First, there's the lambda of the market times the beta that private equity has with the market, plus there's an illiquidity lambda times the beta of private equity with regard to illiquidity. So one could think that the lambda of the market is larger than 0, somewhere in the range of 4 to 7%. On the other hand, the beta PE market is likely larger than 1, as it's a leveraged investment into firms. Now, in addition, the lambda for illiquidity is thought to be positive, meaning the illiquidity market price of risk is positive. And likewise, the beta for a private equity investment with regard to illiquidity is thought to be also positive because of the lockup. Now, that shows us that private equity needs to pay higher returns than the market. First, because it carries more market risk because of the leveraging, and second, because of its illiquidity, and both being systematic risk factors in our two-factor model here. So I want to end this video to talk about the difference between cross-sectional and time series factor models. Investors refer to a model as a time series factor model if realized factor premiums Ft are observed. In that case, investors have to estimate for each asset J the amount of factor exposure beta F, Rj. Prominent time series factor models are the CAPM, Farmer-French, all extended Farmer-French models, and basically the entire factor zoo. On the other hand, professionals refer to a cross-sectional factor model if beta f, rj is observed, and the time series of factor premiums is unobserved. If the cross-section J is large enough, there is hope to estimate the factor premiums Ft via cross-sectional regressions. Prominent examples rely on firm characteristics, such as whether a firm belongs to a specific sector, which one could call sector risk.
Got feedback? We would love to hear it. Please drop us a line. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.